You spend a massive portion of your life lying to yourself. Clinical assessments show that humans deceive themselves up to 85% of the time, all while remaining entirely convinced they are experiencing objective reality. The 17th century philosopher René Descartes popularized the idea that we are fully aware of the contents of our own minds. Modern psychology proves the exact opposite. The internal mechanics of our thought processes operate almost entirely in the dark. Instead of acting like a clear window, your mind operates as a biased filter. It autonomously generates cognitive distortions, invisible errors in reasoning that actively separate your perception from actual facts. When we trust this automatic mental filter without question, we react to a fabricated world that does not exist. We turn ordinary, manageable life events into a source of constant, unnecessary suffering. This diagram illustrates what psychologists call the cognitive triangle. It knots the exact structural blueprint linking your thoughts, your feelings, and your behavior. Here is how the trap functions. An unchecked, distorted thought enters your awareness and instantaneously triggers a negative emotional state. That negative emotion completely bypasses your logic center, forcing a physical action or a self-sabotaging behavioral reaction. That resulting behavior then provides false evidence that reinforces the original distorted thought, locking your brain into a continuous self-sustaining loop. This entire psychological sequence runs on autopilot in milliseconds. Escaping the loop requires us to slow the process down and dissect the exact life cycle of a single thought. To freeze this process in real time, we use the ABC framework. Step A is the activating event. Imagine receiving a vague, one-word text message from a close friend. That is a neutral, objective event. But before your brain can gather any facts, it instantly jumps to step B, the belief. It fabricates an interpretation of that event. This is where the mental glitch occurs. A distortion called catastrophizing hijacks the belief, forcing your brain to assume the worst-case scenario. Simultaneously, another distortion called mind reading layers in. You begin projecting negative motives onto your friend, assuming they are angry with you, without a single shred of empirical proof. Finally, the all-or-nothing distortion locks the glitch into place, classifying the entire relationship as completely ruined based on that single text. Within a fraction of a second, your mind abandons objective reality to process a nightmare scenario constructed purely from cognitive errors. Step C is the consequence. Because you accepted the fabricated belief, your body and behavior must now conform to it. You possess a biological blind spot. The human brain cannot distinguish between a genuine physical threat and a fabricated internal distortion. Cortisol floods your system. Your heart rate climbs. Your physical stress spikes. The behavioral fallout is immediate. You either aggressively lash out in self-defense, or you withdraw entirely from the person who triggered the imagined threat. Run this loop thousands of times over decades, and the damage compounds. It creates the exact condition Henry David Thoreau described when he wrote, "The mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation." The cognitive error successfully tricked you into manifesting the exact real-world conflict you were afraid of. Our unexamined thoughts act as our own worst enemies. It is impossible to prevent a distorted thought from entering your mind, but it is entirely possible to sever its connection to your behavior. The tool for this is awareness. Think of it as a deliberate micropause, a psychological wedge forcefully driven between your initial thought and your subsequent reaction. You execute this pause using the radar framework. Reflect on the thought without judgment, describe it using clinical, objective language, and respond intentionally rather than automatically. By forcing your brain to explicitly label its own process, you strip the cognitive error of its emotional leverage. You stop feeling the thought and reduce it to manageable data. The final step of the intervention is disputing. This requires placing your own internal belief on trial as a hostile witness. You must ask specific, rigorous questions. Is this thought definitively true? What is the hard, objective evidence for this conclusion? If the thought cannot meet the standard of objective evidence, it must be actively discarded and replaced with a grounded, logical alternative. You are not your thoughts, and you are not your feelings. You are simply the awareness that experiences them. By continuously hunting down cognitive errors and demanding objective proof from your own mind, you stop battling a fake reality and gain the perspective required to thrive in the real one.